NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Woo!
As an adult, don't we all miss spring break? Nothing like taking a week off from all your responsibilities. Well, here's the next best thing for adults, a spring break from house payments. SaveWithConrad.com can help you get rid of all your credit card debt just like that. We're routinely helping our listeners save $5, $6, $7, even $800 a month. And you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this, but check this out, no house payments for 2 months. It's SaveWithConrad.com.
What's up, Airheads? Here we are back in the virtual Airstream studios. Hope y'all had a lovely Ides of March. Hope it wasn't too rough on you. Here I am. I'm Trey. That's Corey. What's up, Corey?
What's up? Have we talked about the Ides of March on this show? Yeah, I guess we did when I did Caesar.
About Caesar, right? Yeah.
I don't remember really going.
He was famously told to beware the Ides of March, and then
the Ides.
And I don't think he did, and he got stabbed.
No, he did. He definitely didn't. He was just like, the Ides, whatever. I'm not worried about no goddamn Ides.
But the Ides got him,
This is typical fashion of. They sure did. The Ides will do that. This is typical fashion of me covering a topic. I now don't remember what the Ides of March were. What does that mean?
The Ides of March is just March. The midpoint. You could have the Ides of any month. Okay. So it's March 15th. March 15th is the Ides, which it's weird for one day to be called the Ides of March, but
the Ides
is just, and I don't know the origin of that, but it just means the midpoint. So you can have the Ides of July, you can have the Ides of anything you want, but the Ides of March is far and away the most famous of all the Ides.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say St. Ives, but it's St. Ives, ain't it? St. Ives, isn't that?
Yeah, like St. Ives. I know that because of the lotion.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew you would know. You a lotion using fool.
I'm a very lotion using fool. It's a practical travel lotion that I often buy. I'm a lotion guy for sure.
Do you have separate lotion for the bee and for the bumble and for the various parts of your body? How many different lotions do you have for all your different body parts?
Well, our friends over at Manscaped, I have a beard conditioner type lotion thing that I use from them, but also, so like, and this is only from growing up around women. Like I was just with my mom and my sister a lot. So I got taught like, hey, face lotion and body lotion are very different things. And I buy into it. I love spending money. So like, I'll be like, cool, I'll get my nice face lotion. But like, if I run out of that, it'll be a long time before I go get more and I just rub my body lotion all over me. But like, I definitely lotion the bee more than any other part of my body. Like when I get out of the shower, I lotion everything, but then throughout the day, I re-lotion the bee. Like I don't know, three or four times, So I'm using some pretty nice stuff.
Got to take care of the bee. So listen, today. Here's what we're going to be talking about a little later. I have found a gentleman from history who I believe perfectly embodies or embodied, he long since dead, but he embodied the idea of my Venn diagram where trashy and fancy overlap. This guy was a walking Venn diagram. I find his story to be hilarious. I feel like it's undertold. I think most people don't know about him, but obviously you can find information on him because I did. And I'm looking forward to telling you about him a little later. Then you are going to talk about another feller who's pretty different from that. Triangle feller.
The triangle feller, Pythagoras, him and his theorem and all that stuff. There's really only a couple things about him that I want to talk about. It's going to be like atypical. I'm not going to be doing the year-to-year thing. He just had one thing that like really caught my attention, and I was like, okay, look up some more interesting facts about this guy. But I really want to talk to Trey about this one fucking thing.
Pythagoras has always been my go. I'm sure I've said it to you over the years, but we don't do
in
math
jokes.
Much.
You say
we
Pythagoras
don't do math much. Yeah, he's always been my go-to for like if you're with your buddies and like you're trying to figure out how much beer you're going to get or whatever, and you see your friends start going like, say that's what is that 1742 whatever. My go-to is to be like, all right, calm down, Pythagoras, or like, all right, how you doing, Pythagoras, or like anytime somebody does like simple math, I call them Pythagoras, and I've done that for I don't even know how long. He's just always
number one. That's the reason I know who Pythagoras is
Yeah.
because of you doing that. And number two, and you don't remember it, but last week you made a Pythagoras crack in the thread, and I was like, I could talk about Pythagoras. So like
all right.
you doing that is the reason for us even talking about Pythagoras.
I just think,
by the way, there was like a long time when you used to just say that, and I just laughed like like I knew what you were fucking saying. Like I've told you a million times. They're like, oh, do you know Noam Chomsky? And I'm like, no, but I love to tell people that I do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like that when you just laugh along with something because you don't want anybody to know how stupid you are. I did that for like years with Pythagoras with you, and I knew I was like, that must be a math feller.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny because like, I was going to say, I just feel like he's got like a funny name for that situation, but the truth is like,
he does.
I don't know hardly any other math fellers. Do you know what I mean? Like, so he's like, he's
right.
one of the most famous math fellers. And also I think his name joke. Is just funny in that situation. So yeah, that's been my
comedically,
go-to, so.
It starts with a P, which is always good comedically, you know that, and then got the hard G, and that is followed with Gus, Pythagoras, like that. It really is comedically the perfect order of letters.
Yeah, it does hit. Before we get to all that, though, you sent me an article earlier, and like, I'm not surprised by this, but I am kind of surprised that I didn't know as much about this as I now do from reading this article. So like we've talked a lot about the past being a nightmare. I've had stand-up bits about the past not hitting. I'm fascinated with how much the past did not hit and how just nightmarish and terrible everything was. And often in a comical way. It's so ludicrous that it's funny. Well, this is
it seems made up.
It's the perfect example of that. So apparently for a long time, humans were putting animals on trial for human crimes and sentencing them to human punishments up to and including but not limited to excommunication and death. So you're wondering how a pig, reacts to being excommunicated from the church. Like I didn't know I was in a church, but I guess now I can't go. But they've exiled animals. So yeah, this was an article you found in Wired. And how did you just randomly come across this or what?
Yeah, man. Like it's a rabbit hole thing. Like once a week, I'm like, okay, I need to start looking for some stuff for putting on airs, and like something will catch my mind, and then like I think this might have been even under a Pythagoras thing that was like, if you like this wild fact about Pythagoras, you'll also love. And I just saw like a pig being hanged, and I was like, well, good God, I've got to fucking read that. But like with this, the thing that strikes me immediately is that like, it doesn't surprise me that they were executing animals back in the day. Cause I mean, fuck, we do that every day. I mean, to eat them, not for their crimes, but like it didn't surprise me that they were executing them. What surprised me was that they were wasting their time getting lawyers for the pig.
Pigs,
you know what I mean?
Well, apparently pigs used to just run wild in the streets, killing stuff and being, and it's like the way they make it sound is like, it was just like gangs, like the Crips and Bloods, but it's pigs.
Yeah.
In all these like in these medieval towns, and they were just running roughshod over everything.
The fattened kings.
I get you. Yeah, the fattened kings. I like that. I get it. I get that you gotta get that under control. You can't just have that, right? But like you said, to throw a whole court together. There's one story in here like so. This is fucked up, but like a pig. There's just well, first of all, a lot of this article is sourced from a book that I now kind of want to read. I
have to read it.
A book
and there's
from
a movie.
1906, right? A history by a guy named E.P. Evans. And the title of the book it's a whole book, y'all, entitled The Criminal Prosecution and Capital Punishment of Animals, right? So like there's a whole book's worth of this shit. And there's a story in there about a pig eating a kid. Again, don't hit. But it was considered a particularly egregious offense because the pig ate the kid on a Friday, right? Which was like that don't hit for the Lord. And
that's like the holy day.
Yeah, right. Like if you're gonna eat a kid, okay, but on a Friday, pig, have you no shame? You couldn't have waited till tomorrow to eat that, peasant's daughter. Like you fucking had to do it on a Friday. So they what's the word? They moved up. They expedited his court proceedings because it was a particularly egregious offense in the eyes of the Lord. And he was hanged in France in 1934. Oh, wait, no, this is a different pig. A different pig was hanged in France in 1934 for having sacrilegiously eaten a consecrated wafer, right?
Okay.
It's like, you don't, them's the Lord's wafers, pig. You can't just eat your own wafers. It's like, I've got a thing right now where I mentioned at the end, you've seen me do it a bunch, but I'm doing a different version of a joke I have now about, I talk about, it's just a one-line thing where I say, like, people think we're getting dumber as a species, and I get it, but I don't think that's true just because of how fucking dumb people used to be. Like, I know we dumb. I'm not saying we smart. We dumb. We is dumb, okay? But, like, we are not dumber than people used to be. And this article is a perfect example of how dumb people used to be. Like, executing a pig for eating a Jesus cookie or whatever. It's like, it's a pig. Fucking... Dude. And again, pigs doing shit they ought not do. You kill them, eat them, right? You can't have the fattened kings running your town or whatever. Like, I understand that, but
I wish we already had merch because the fattened kings, a fucking pig with a little bandana on it. Where's the babies, huh?
But yeah, in the appendix to that book, he lists 200 separate cases of animal executions. 200 known cases. Those are just the ones we have the records of.
Can we pause here for just a second and talk about this one hanged pig? Because I have a couple thoughts. Yeah. And I have a story. Number one, you think to yourself, well, here's actually what I want to posit to you: the hanging of the pig. Here's the psychology of that, because like, it would be so much easier and practical if you want the animal to be put down. Like when a dog bites a kid, they put him to sleep, right? Or more likely, the papaw of the kid shoots the dog in the head, right? Yes. These are practical. We just don't want this animal to be alive anymore. But hanging sort of has its roots in like a public showing of things. And it sort of, I know, and it sort of implies to me, and the fact that they think, I can't believe this pig ate this kid on a Friday. They are really anthropomorphizing these animals and thinking that they truly have this level of thinking. And to me, it seems like they're going, no, we can't just slit the pig's throat. We have to hang it in the town square so that the other pigs will see this and think twice before they go eat a kid.
That's part of it. They also, like, hangings used to just be HBO for peasants. Like that was just the entertainment.
They loved
what I mean? And so like they would come to these pig hangings would be public, and the peasants would come watch a pig get hanged, and then presumably afterwards, like, so what'd you think about it? And it's like, well, I thought it hit harder when it was Jerry last week. Jerry got hanged really hit for me more than the pig, but I'll take it. Otherwise, what else am I going to do on my Saturday if I don't have something to watch get hanged? But like so there was another case where like this one pig like killed it was like 2 or 3 pigs where feral went nuts, killed this like friar, this monk at a monastery or something. Yeah. But there was the rest of the pack of pigs there with him. And they put them on trial for like egging them on. Yeah, for like accessory for egging the other pigs. Like those pigs, it's like a gang. Like those were his boys in the back. Like, yeah what now, motherfucker? Hey, where's your boy now, bitch? Huh? Do it to him. He wasn't ready. They're fucking high-fiving and shit. Like that's how they treated it. And so they all got like fucking sentenced to death or whatever because those other pigs agged on the 3 that actually did the killing. But
sentenced to death after a trial.
Yeah. I feel like most trials back then were shams. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Kangaroo court.
Be like, hey, all of them. They're like, all right, she's a witch. All right. You're guilty of witchness. Yeah, burn her. Yeah. Get the steak ready. Right? Like it's fucking. That's pretty much all they did. So I have to assume with the pigs, it was just as bad. But it gets it gets dumber and wilder than even that, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just pigs. They would put dogs, horses, bulls, donkeys. In France, they hanged some dolphins once. The dolphins tried. Look, and dolphins
They don't even have a neck. They don't even have a neck, though.
Even
How
though
do you hang a dolphin?
I don't know, but they figured it out. I would have thought that, dolphins are known to be a little rapey, right? But hell, France in the 1500s, the dolphin, the dolphin had to be like, oh, now it's a problem? Fucking when I do it, it's a problem. Okay. All right. It's fucking might as well be this town's motto, but you're going to hang me for it. Okay.
That's
I see
the
how
best. The best place to be a dolphin is France. Because you can just rape all the time. I'm sure that we have some French listeners that are taking umbrage. Would that be the right word?
Yes.
That are taking umbrage with the fact that we think that they're all willy-nilly about rape. And to those people, I would like to say, okay, sure, I know that everybody there don't be raping, but like I really would like someone to give me concrete evidence to prove us wrong in the fact that it's a little less serious in France.
Well, I mean, just Pepe Le Pew, but dude, for me, the operative.
I'm saying,
I know, but for me, the really operative part is the 1500s part. Like, if you gonna act like, if you gonna act like, we've talked about before, both raping and pillaging, huge in this time era. This time
the number
frame.
2 exports.
Yeah, right. So, like, it just is what it is. Meanwhile, I said with all these other animals. Also, smaller creatures, they'd put rats on trial, apparently. And according to this book, and I mean, what? But the animals were not always executed. Rats, for instance, would be put on trial for, like, trespassing in someone's home, like a rat do, right? Yeah. They'd be put on trial for that. And the court would issue them a, quote, friendly letter of advice in order to induce them to quit any house in which their presence is deemed undesirable. Like, the fucking rat is going to be like, oh shit, I didn't know they didn't want me around. I'm sorry. So
my bad, y'all.
I'll get my things and leave right away. Excuse me. If you're writing letters to rats, you dumb.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. This is the thing too that separates barbarism from just pure stupidity. Because it's like, yes, you understand. Like, back in the day, they just slicing animals up willy nilly, and they're their morals are different, because we all know that the moral goalpost shifts every couple years. But like, we kill animals, right? We slaughter cows. We still do that shit. We ain't writing no letters to a rat. Like, they're writing letters to a rat,
right? To
the rat's lawyer or whatever the fuck, played by Colin Firth in a movie, apparently.
Yeah, that was wild too. I never heard of that. I definitely want to check that movie out. Movie from 1993, apparently about this, where Colin Firth plays like an animal lawyer from the medieval times. But they
Can I put this out there so that we're beholden to it? We have to do a bonus episode of Putting on Airs where we watch that movie and review it, because I'm a huge Colin Firth fan. I don't know about you, but like, that's my fucking guy.
He's great.
I got to see this movie.
So, and you were talking about the animals had lawyers, apparently, because, hey, it wouldn't be fair otherwise. Like, they had a right to representation, I guess. And I guess sometimes these lawyers were somewhat effective, because there's a story in there about a sow and a she-ass. Right, so
that's a female donkey,
lady
right?
Donkey, a sow and a lady donkey were both executed to be hanged at the same time. I don't know what they got up to, but it didn't hit for the townspeople. They got executed to be hanged, but upon an appeal, this man appealed. He filed an appeal on behalf of his clients, who, again, I really can't stress this enough, are a pig and a donkey. Right? He files an appeal on behalf of his clients. The court reconsidered, and ultimately they were sentenced to, quote, simply being knocked on the head. So,
dude, how fucking fun would your job as the executioner be that day? Like, you don't have to kill him, but just get a bat and just knock him in the fucking head.
Some of this wasn't always crime related. There's also a story in there, and this type of thing I'm not at all surprised by.
Embezzling rats.
Well, apparently in the 1500s, this famous naturalist at the time, who I've never heard of, named Leonard Thurneisser.
Does that mean naked back then too?
What?
Because naturalists now,
like the way Darwin, like a scientist.
Oh,
like
right. Okay.
Like a scientist of nature back then. he wasn't famous for just being naked all the
Being
time.
naked,
That
yeah,
would make
well.
this story even wilder because what he did was he gave a Swiss town a moose as a gift, right? And he ought not done that because this town is full of dipshit peasants in the 1500s. They'd never seen anything like that. They immediately decided the moose was in fact a demon, and then they assassinated it by a lady in town fed it an apple that she filled up with broken needles. So I guess it's not just a
The
Halloween
Halloween.
old wives' tale. Yeah.
yeah.
Apparently, if you're a moose, you really need to watch out for that. But imagine that scientist coming back and be like, "So how's the moose working out?" It's like, "Oh, well, they thought it was a demon, so they killed it with a needle apple."
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah,
This-
I don't even know why I try.
You running through that, by the way, reminded me of how good of a point in your bit that you make, because you just said dipshit peasants, right? Which,
Yeah.
like, yes, it's true that, like, no offense, but in most times, no matter if it's medieval or whenever, a lot of times the most dipshit of the group is going to be a peasant. Like, there's smart peasants, don't get me wrong, but some people are peasants by sheer nature of the fact that they were a dipshit. But what we're talking about right now, and this is your bit talking about how the average dipshit today is smarter than the nobility back then, is that, like, the peasants weren't the one putting them on trial and defending them in law. Like, these were the smartest of the people that were fucking sending letters to rats.
Right. Yeah, man. No, I know. It was dumb. We've been dumb for most of our existence. It's honestly wild the things we've managed to accomplish. These are fucked up. So in other instances, somebody would, pork a donkey like you do, right? Especially back then.
I love this.
And like one feller porked a lady donkey, right? So they put them both on trial, and a she-ass, and they had to determine whether or not she wanted it. Right? So whether or not the donkey was a party to this crime of bestiality, right? They ultimately acquitted her, finding her to be a victim of violence because, I quote, that she had always been known and shown herself to be virtuous and well behaved at both home and abroad. So people are like, that donkey ain't no whore. I know that donkey. That's a good God-fearing Christian donkey right there. Furthest thing from a whore donkey you'll ever see. So they
imagine saying to someone, "What was that donkey wearing?" You know what I mean? Like, why was she in that stall at 2 p.m?
On a separate occasion, though, and this is how I'm reading it, I could be wrong, but either way, the end result is the same. On a separate occasion, another feller porked, I believe, a boy donkey, so in its butt, and they killed both of them for buggery. And
because that donkey was gay.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Didn't even give that donkey a chance. You know what I mean? It's like, goddamn, dude, the past, such a nightmare. And then there's a part at the end that honestly I have trouble even understanding because they put insects on trial. Like if there would be a plague of locusts, they'd put the locust on trial and find them guilty of plaguing and be like, you got to get out of here. But like, that didn't work. Right. Like there's no way that ever worked. So what? And then they were like, well, now they're guilty of, avoidance of punishment or whatever. Like now they're refusing to listen to I find these locusts to be in contempt, and like
I read something in there that was talking about, like, it was, I guess the Bugs lawyer was arguing that it was like, okay, I'm arguing that insects do not have their own free will and that insects are behaving in accordance with God's will. God is the thing that instructs all these. And they were like, no, that can't be true. And the lawyer argued, he goes, okay, well, then why, when there is a plague or a bunch of locusts, do you pray that God will get them out of there? And when they do leave, you always say it was because you prayed. So if that's the case, then these are under orders of God and they don't have their own free will, which, like, that's fucking brilliant. But I can't believe it had to be done.
That is a hell of a bug lawyer there. That guy, like, top of his class at Bug Law School. Because, that dude was the fucking Clarence Darrow of bug law. Because, because
Brown Beetle versus the board. Am I right?
Yeah, because you're right. Like if you're living back then and and you're into all that, and you believe all that and stuff, like I feel like that's pretty hard to argue with. Like, how are they
You
not
can't argue with it.
instruments of God? Like it's literally in the Bible that they're instruments of God.
Yeah.
So like
if they weren't, then
can't put 'em on
praying to
trial for
God to
doing
get
God
rid of them
shit.
wouldn't matter.
right,
Exactly.
yeah, hell of a lawyer that guy was. So this did make me think.
I wanted to, but you mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to add the bottom part to it. You're talking about the donkey, the he-ass that got fucked by the man, and they condemned the donkey to be killed because he was gay. The last line of this really killed me. A mule condemned to be burned alive together with a man guilty of buggery was inclined to kick, so the executioner cut off its feet before setting it aflame. He cut the donkey.
Nightmare, bro. Like,
they were the smartest people.
Did they have to set up another? Did they have to call the judge in and put him on trial for kicking too, or was he able to just? Was he able to just wantonly fucking chop his feet off without a proper trial? That's my question. Because like,
it seems like they play it by the
code
book
here. Yeah, right. Thought we're going by the book. Medieval lunatics. Yeah, it's fucking
God damn
crazy. This whole thing reminded me of a story from Tennessee lore, though.
I know. I think I know this story, and it's our lore too.
In East Tennessee, it's very well. This, like I say, lore. This, like, absolutely.
Is this about football?
No, and this is a real thing that really happened. But I'm saying it's kind of legendary in East Tennessee for its wild lunacy. But it's I never knew that it had such a precedent. I didn't know that there was standing case law to support this.
Right.
I just heard that in 1916. A circus came through Kingsport, Tennessee, and there was an elephant in this circus named Mary, right? And Mary killed a dude who was fucking with her. He was like poking her with a stick or something. So she stomped him to death or whatever because, she's a fucking elephant. You ought not do that. But they put Mary on trial for murder, and they, for some reason, I think because they needed the machinery that was there or something, they shipped her to Irwin, Tennessee, which is a town nearby. And in Irwin, they hung Mary to death from a crane. And there's a famous picture of it and stuff. So in Irwin, Tennessee in 1916, they executed an elephant by hanging for the crime of murder. And again, I'd always heard that, and it's like, goddamn, we dumb, but I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know that there was a long and storied tradition of such criminal proceedings until this very day. So I found that interesting. No, what were
have
you
I
gonna
told
say?
you my hanging an animal story? This is about football. I was just thinking, I was like, did you hear the same thing? And maybe this, but this, I've heard this from multiple people who lived during this generation that this happened. All right. So everybody knows, if you're a school that has football, you've got that one team, usually a town over, that is your fucking rival. Y'all hate each other. Like, you hate them personally because of football. Like, you both towns are filled with the exact same type of people. However, both towns think that the other one is absolute fucking garbage just because they have the audacity to also have a football team that plays y'all once a year, right? So with us, that team was trying. Now, maybe it's just me buying into all the years of that type of rhetoric, but I will say they are trash. They don't hit. All right?
I was about to say, I think football definitely plays a part, but I think it's like larger than football. I just think it's a universal rule that, like, neighboring towns like that, especially rural towns, especially in the South, like it's always like they think each other are trash. Like, oh, that fucking trash in Jackson County, that's the one next to Salina. And it's like you said, they're the exact same fucking people,
Exactly.
But it's just the way it is.
The thing with Trine, though, like, one of the things we used to shit on them for a lot is that their whole town smelled like poop. But that's true because they have a sewer plant there that when you drive by the tops, tops
my daddy
of the
worked
sewer
45 years at the Pope factory. Right? His daddy before him. The Pope factory factory is the beating heart of this town's economy. If the day the Pope factory moves to Mexico, Trine's in trouble. Okay. Save the Pope factory, everybody. Don't legislate the Pope factory out of Trine's economy.
So it does smell like poop. And what's even worse is that when you drive by the poop factory, the tops of the poop barrels that
Yeah.
they've got like water towers full of poop.
Yeah,
They're
right.
open and you can just see the poop floating around there.
Oh my
right?
God.
So
They ought not cover that up.
And
Like,
try. I know. I guess if
now
they
you gotta
cover
air
it
the
up, all
poop
the
out.
methane can like
It's like,
poop out. Yeah, you
obviously
do.
you
Like,
never worked in
it
a poop
actually is-
factory, okay? Because
right, yeah.
any
I'm
poop
ignorant to
mason will
the
tell
ways
you,
of the poop.
yeah, that you can't just cover it up. You're probably right though. It probably
No.
is like a methane thing, or it's like
It's
combustible
a methane
gas
for
or
sure,
something.
dude.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it'll explode. It'll explode. But anyways, so and now for the record too, trying for the most part always beat the fuck out of us because them poop boys was tough. They grew up in
Yeah.
poop. When you grow up in a poop economy,
Yeah.
you can play ball. So
hard
you know,
nosed sons of poop farmers, dude. That's fucking. You don't want to fuck with them.
No, you don't. So, matter of fact, we've only beat them like a handful of times in like, I don't know, 30 years. And I was on one of the teams that did it. It was my senior year. And buddy, we showed our ass. There were several boys on my football team that night began the addiction that would eventually kill them after we beat Trine. So, anyways, back in I think it was the 70s, Gordon Lee, who were the Trojans, and Tryon, who were the Bulldogs, were, they were already you get where this is going. So they had a heated rivalry. And usually before the game, there would always be pranks played. Like I remember one year, Tryon came to Gordon Lee in the middle of the night and they dumped a bunch of condoms on our field because we were the Trojans. I'm talking thousands of condoms that, of course, they then made us, the football team, go pick up which we loved, by the way, because we didn't have to be in math class. They were like, hey, you're on condom duty. So it would be shit like that. They would come down and they'd know the running back. They'd know the popular running back's car and they'd put fish under his hood or whatever the fuck it was. Well, man, that's all in fun. Well, in the 70s, Gordon Lee really, really, really hated Trine, and Gordon Lee was really good that year, and it was right before the Trine game, and so they were like, "We're going to get him with a prank," and so what they did was they went and got their mascot, which was a alive bulldog. And they hung it from the goalpost. They hung it to death from with trigger warning, post trigger warning to everybody. Listen, it's not funny to hang a dog.
No.
What's funny is that in their minds, they were like, we're doing this because of a fucking school rivalry. But so they showed up to school the next day and their mascot bulldog was hung by his neck to death from their field goal post. Go Trojans.
Truly hilarious prank right there. You talk about fucking, it's just a prank, bro. Drew told us a similar story once, and this whole thing is not going to hit for people. Sorry, but look, we ain't the ones that hung the damn dogs. Drew told us a similar story from Morgan County. I don't remember who it was, but he said like somebody, they like hung a dog and then shot it. And I was like, I was like, I call that a Panama pinata, baby.
Well, dude, they took it out of its misery.
Which I'm sorry, but that's funny. It's horrific.
That's fucking hilarious.
But that's funny. Fucking Panama pinata. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. I remember that.
That was so funny.
That was originally on Tiger by the Tail. That's where that was. I remember it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
holy shit, dude, that was like 4 years ago.
That's so crazy that's
if
true.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Tiger by the Tail is a spinoff of the Well Read podcast, and it was during the pandemic when we didn't know what to do. We had no idea if we were ever going to be able to do comedy again. And right at that time, and I know that this has long since been beaten to death and nobody wants to ever watch this show again, but the Tiger King came out. And so we did an episode-by-episode review of the Tiger King. That was called Tiger by the Tail. If that interests you, you can go to Trey's YouTube and see that, or on the Well Read podcast feed. But I will tell you this, I haven't watched those in a long time. That was right when we were first figuring out how to do remote podcasts and stuff. There's no way. I mean, I bet it was good for the time because we got a lot of grace because nobody knew what they were doing. But like, dude,
Yeah.
I bet we sound like shit.
Yeah, it was pretty early
I
on
bet
in the
we sound like
pandemic,
shit.
and everybody was new to Zoom stuff and remote podcasting. But it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun, though. But
It was so much fun.
yeah, Salina, my high school, we were the Bulldogs too, but we never had a living Bulldog. Though we didn't have Bulldog money. Bulldogs are expensive, dude. You can't, you know, you
they
can't just
are
get a Bulldog.
expensive.
It never really occurred to me that we didn't, or I don't know. I guess it never really occurred to me that other places might. I know that UGA, but that's a college. You know, it never occurred
That's
to
a
me
college,
like other
yeah.
high schools would have like
Yeah,
living.
they're the only ones
mascots,
that I
'cause
know, for the record. And
do they
and like
still, or did they give it up?
yeah,
after-
no, they still do. I mean, I know they did when I was in high school, at least. But like, they were also the only. Now that I think about it, they were the only school around the area that had a mascot that was even applicable for that, because like,
yeah, I know.
we had
Wildcats,
we were the
Tigers, fucking
yeah. Like the
Trojans.
Ridgeland was the Panthers. They're not going to have a fucking Panther,
Right,
and like we were
right.
the Trojans. And it we don't do this anymore. But every now and then we would have somebody from the school dress up like a Trojan and go out there. But then you got the Lafayette Ramblers, the Lakeview Warriors. They did have an Indian for a while.
I was about to bring up the Indian teams, and I was like, you know how that
Yeah.
worked. They just, you know,
Yeah,
put some feathers
yeah.
on a feller,
It was-
send him out there.
It was very regrettable.
Yeah.
God, that was fun. I'm so glad I ran into that article.
Me too. That was a lot of fun. Well, let's get into it, I guess. Let's cover the living Venn diagram himself.
We probably need to take a break, Trey, if I had to
then
guess.
we'll do it right after this.
I want to tell y'all about our friends over at Every Plate. Are y'all looking to cut down on food expenses? I know you are. You want to get more bang for your bite. With America's Best Value Kit, Every Plate is 25% cheaper than grocery shopping, so you can count on great value week after week. Plus, only pay for what you need with pre-portioned ingredients. You want to get dinner on the table quicker? Some of these recipes are 15 minutes or less. They're new slate of recipes that only take 15 minutes to prepare. You can choose from fast, flavorful options like the pimento-style grilled cheese sandwiches. Oh, that's making my southern heart melt. And smoky cumin pork tacos. Choose Every Plate over takeout to save money while still enjoying quick, satisfying meals. Their meals are 58% cheaper than your average fast casual meal. Put the money you save towards making fun plans. You know, sit back and relax, listen to Put On Airs, and get on a boat or something. Trey, you love Every Plate, don't you?
I love it oh so much. I'm a massive devotee of this service. I tried it out, years ago, and just have been hooked ever since. I could go on and on. I could do a whole episode on how much this hits for me. Just a few of the things that I love about it. I used to always I hated going to the grocery store all the time. So I go to the grocery store and I would buy a bunch of vegetables, bunch of meat. And it's like, these are going to be all the meals for the next however long. And I would invariably end up throwing a lot of that out because I didn't get around to it or whatever. It ended up going bad. And I hate being wasteful. Well, Every Plate completely takes care of that. They send you exactly the amount you need to cook, the meal in question. It also, the variety of it, they send you recipes for things that like my country ass would never think to do. You know what I mean? Beef bulgogi and stuff like that. And it slaps, and it makes you feel like chefy, you know what I mean? Like you feel fancy, like you feel like you're really doing something because you really are doing something.
I think that's a good point because I've told a lot of people, me and you talked about it. I've learned so much about cooking from Every Plate,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. There's so many things that I've just picked up from doing Every Plate that now I can take to my own cooking exploits elsewhere. I love it. I recommend the service to anybody who likes food. So, pretty much all of y'all. So here's what you can do if you're into this, and you should be. You can get $1.49 per meal. What? $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com/podcast and then entering the code POA 149. That's right. You heard me right. That's $1.49 per meal. If you go to everyplate.com/podcast and put in the code POA 149, y'all, that's $110 value. You can't beat that with a stick. It's high past time you tried Every Plate, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Skew.
All right, we're back. Before I get into it, during the break there, we had a little note from BPP, Big Papa producer, who would like the record. He didn't say this, but I'm now saying that he is somewhat skeptical of the veracity of the dog hanging story. I do think it's worth saying because he's from obviously same school, same place
area,
you are,
yeah.
and I guess he
he didn't go to the
feels
same
like that's-
school. He didn't go to the same school.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
either way.
he went to Rossville, who were coincidentally the Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs, yeah, he told me that too. Actually, I just forgot. Yeah, they had Roga, another Bulldog, who I believe was able to escape hanging. So that's good for him.
Yeah, I've never been able to confirm that story, but it's just one of those that's like there's an old Italian phrase that translates loosely into if it's not true, it should be.
Right. So, all right, the living Venn diagram himself was a guy named Timothy Dexter. Have you ever heard the name Timothy Dexter that you're aware of?
No, I'm not, and that name sounds like it could go either way, so that's almost kind of perfect too.
And it went both ways. Timothy Dexter was a trashy idiot who, against all odds and also despite his best efforts, managed to accrue a fair amount of wealth and infiltrate high society to an extent in colonial era Massachusetts. So he was born in the Massachusetts colony in 1747. He was born to a poor family. He had dropped out of school. I didn't even know they had school back then, but he had dropped out of school to work on the farm when he was 8. So he started working on the farm at 8, as you do, a couple years late for that era, I believe. But they finally got him
almost
out there.
middle age.
Yeah, and then when he was a teenager, he became a tanner's apprentice, so he started working with leather, right? So he's like,
I was about to say that's leather, right? The tannery.
Yes. So he's like a blue collar dude, whatever. A little bit later, 1769, he moved to Newburyport, Massachusetts, which is somewhere up there, and he managed to finagle. I don't know how he pulled this off, but he married a 32-year-old rich widow. So good for him.
Oh my God, an elderly woman.
I know, yeah, and yeah, I know, yeah. She got in.
Door.
I mean, I'm sure that's how he pulled it off, is because she was like, "I have no options left, and my life is at an end." Right. My husband has died. I'm 32. All is lost. It's 1770. I have nothing. I have no prospects, and I never will again.
America's not even a country yet. For the love of God, take me.
And then along comes this stupid ass leather man who says, "Hey, I'll marry you," and she's like, "Okay, thank God. Now I, don't have to waste away in a nunnery somewhere or whatever." Until I coughed to death at the age of 43. But so they got married. She had money. He what he does with the money first, right? Because he'd always wanted to be like a fancy fucker, right? So he's like, I got money. I'm gonna turn this money into more money. So the first thing he did was he took a lot of her money and bought continental currency. That it was towards the end of the Revolutionary War. It was the first currency that the continental U.S. had put out. It was, by the time he bought it, it was known already to be functionally worthless, right? Like it might as well have been monopoly
Bitcoin.
Money. It's like sometimes in these like emerging economies, when they go through a bunch of strife and shit like that, you get crazy shit. Like I think it was Zimbabwe years ago. They were printing like $3 billion notes and something, because that's how like worthless their money was, So like that, this continental dollar just utterly collapsed. It was worth nothing. So he bought up a shitload of it. Everybody's like, well, that don't make no sense, right? But then the U.S. won the war, and the new U.S. government said that they would exchange those notes for 1% of face value, and Massachusetts, the state he lived in, would exchange them for par, so for the same value, right? But like he bought all this for fucking nothing because it was worth nothing,
right?
And now all of a sudden it's worth something again, which no one on earth could have seen coming. Like anybody who knew anything about money or anything at the time would have said that is very stupid. Don't do that.
So the opposite of Bitcoin, really.
But then it worked out, and he made a chunk of money from it. with that chunk of money, he built a mansion and he built 2 ships and got into the exporting business, right? So first, the mansion. He moves into this mansion in Newburyport, and it's like the nice part of town or whatever, and he don't hit for nobody there on account of he's trash. Right.
New money coming in, baby.
New money coming in, does not hit for people, okay? And he was like new money always is. He was gaudy and tacky and stuff, and he put like, a statue of a golden eagle on top of his porch, and he built himself a mausoleum for him to be interred in. And he put
wouldn't you always rather hang out with new money than old money?
I mean, I would, because I'm also trash. So like I would be way more comfortable with new money than old money, no doubt about it, because I'm
it's just a more fun time.
Yeah, right. But he had like 40 wooden statues built that he put all around his yard. Okay. And these statues were statues of great men of the time. Okay. Like he had George Washington, he had Napoleon, he had Ben Franklin, he had Thomas Jefferson, and he also had very prominently featured himself, Timothy Dexter. So he had a statue of himself built alongside all the known great men of the time. And on that statue, he had engraved on the statue of himself that he had built. He had the inscription engraved on it, quote, "I am the first in the East, the first in the West, and the greatest philosopher in the Western world."
Goddamn right.
So,
Goddamn right.
He's really flexing despite barely being able to read, right, and not knowing what he's doing. So, like, so he don't hit for none of his neighbors. So, like, God damn it, this new money dipshit. What's going on? So, like, he builds these ships and wants to get into the export business, right? And this is the sheer number of these Kramer-ific escapades this guy had is wild. Because, like, so he's getting in the export business. All these people in the neighborhood, the landed gentry and stuff who don't like him, they start trying to like fuck him over, right? Like they start giving him tips and business advice, but it's all bad on purpose, right? Because they're trying to break him and
get him the fuck out of the
and get him out of the neighborhood, right? Exactly. So like they tell him to. They had bed warmers back then, which was all it was
coal.
Like a inside a metal, whatever.
It was like a loo or it was like the smoke in.
It was like a ladle that had a lid on it.
A flue, yeah.
But it didn't have the pump thing.
Okay.
It's just
it was. I actually know what they are.
It's just a metal bowl with a top on it that you put coals in and put in your bed.
Yeah, I've got one of those.
Like one of those? Or are you talking about? Because now we got like electric blankets and shit.
No, I know. I'm saying I have one of those as an antique.
Oh no shit!
As like yeah. My grandmother had it, but it's like brass or whatever, and you put the coals in it, and you latch it, and it's got like a handle, and you it's like putting something into a fucking wood stove.
And it's funny because like reading this, I was like, I don't think that would hit for me. That sounds like it could get too hot too quick and might be dangerous. Yeah. And it turns out, like looking into those things further, they often cause fires that burn people to death in their beds, and also they're just third-degree burns on their fucking face. They're just Dutch ovening themselves with noxious coal fumes that they're breathing all night. Like past did not hit. But anyway,
no, it didn't hit.
These things were popular in New England at the time because it gets fucking cold in New England. So his new buddies, told him, you know what you should do? You should take a big shipment of those bed warmers down to the West Indies and sell them down there because they don't have any. And so you'll be breaking in on a new market
where it's really hot.
The West Indies being the Caribbean, a tropical area where it's very hot. And he's like, that sounds like it hits. Okay, thanks.
I love where this is going. By the way, I fucking love where this is going.
Thanks for the tip, Jeremiah. I appreciate it. Right. So he sends a boatload of these bed warmers down to the West Indies, and when he gets there, his ship's captain is like, this fucking idiot don't know shit. This ain't gonna work. So his ship captain takes it upon himself to tell everybody that he tells them they're not bed warmers, they're ladles. That's what they are. He's like, I got all these ladles. And the West Indies at that time where he landed was home to a burgeoning molasses industry. that was like
Oh my
just coming
God.
together. And they were like, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need to scoop this molasses out. Thank you. We'll take all of them. So he sells all of them, comes back with a boatload of money. All his neighbors are like, what the fuck? Like, you know?
Can I point something out real quick?
Yeah.
You just used the word boatload, and
Yeah.
it's the first time that anyone's, in my experience, used it, and they literally meant it.
Yeah. What's
Yeah,
funny about
that
it
was
is
really nice.
I didn't even think about
You
it.
didn't even mean it. Yeah.
I didn't even think about it being the other type of, like it's on, he's got a literal boatload of money.
Yeah.
So they keep going, trying to screw him over. They convince him to sell wool mittens to the same place, right? And this guy's like, he's like, hey, it hit last time. Why
Oh,
wouldn't it hit again? Let's go.
It's a beer
Fucking
koozie.
Run it back,
Yeah.
So this time they get down there and they just happen to meet some Asian merchants in the West Indies who were stopping there, ultimately en route to Siberia, where you do need wool mittens. And they said, damn, we forgot the mittens. Hey, we'll buy all those
Unbelievable.
mittens off of you to sell in Siberia. So he sold everything again, made a shitload of money again.
Unbelievable.
Right? Everybody's totally perplexed. Apparently, I don't know if this is still a saying, but apparently it used to be a saying, and maybe it still is in England. It's like, that's like selling coal to Newcastle. That's what they say.
Uh-huh.
That's like selling coal to Newcastle, which basically just means utterly pointless thing to do.
Ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. And
yeah, but that's like, I mean, I guess that's usually used to describe how great of a salesman somebody is, right? Like, this motherfucker can sell. Like, Newcastle's where all the coal comes from in England.
Right.
So it's like they sell coal to you. You don't sell coal. So trying to sell coal to Newcastle is a fool's errand, right? It's a saying. Right. It's a colloquialism. Well, these dudes literally told him, you know what you should do is you should sell coal to Newcastle, right? And he don't know the saying, and he's like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. I can sell coal. Fucking thanks again, Benjamin. Fucking all right. I'm all in, right? So he gets a bunch of coal.
Because at this point, he has to believe that they have his best interest.
Yeah, he's like, you guys, thanks for all the tips, man.
Yeah, man. Y'all should do this too, man.
Yeah,
like, why don't y'all do it?
You guys getting all this? Why are you giving me all the good tips? I mean, I appreciate it, but damn. Oh, you guys must really like having me around, man. I appreciate it. So he sends a bunch of coal to Newcastle, right? They're all sitting there like, all right, we fucking got him this time, okay? The ship lands in Newcastle only to find that they were in the midst of a big-time coal miners' strike, and the mines had been shut down for months, and they were not producing any coal, and the bigwigs were in desperate need of coal when this idiot's boat pulls up filled with coal. They buy it all at a premium. He makes even more money, right?
I just can't, man. This is unbelievable.
The whole selling gloves in the tropics, and he met some Asian merchants on their way to somewhere else, that happened twice. The second time, it was a different group of Asian merchants on the way to Portugal, and they bought them from him. He filled up a boat with stray cats once. They told him, like, won't you sell some? I swear to God.
And this is still them telling him all this stupid shit.
Yeah, they're like, so, you know what? There's like, Jesus Christ, nothing's working. Oh, fucking, won't you round all these cats up and sell those, motherfucker? And so he's like, all right. So he gets a boat full of stray cats, sends those to the Caribbean islands, gets down there. They're dealing with a horrific rat infestation at the time his boat lands. So they're like, hell yeah, this is just what we need. So they bought all his cats. He also was a hoarder and was just hoarding whale bones, like compulsively, not even to sell them.
Where was he getting them?
Oh, dude, you know, they use whale oil and all that. Like, whaling was, they fucked with whales hardcore back then. And then he was able to sell the whale bones as corset stays. So like a little, element of a corset or whatever.
Yeah.
Fucking, and made a shitload of money on just his hobby of collecting whale bones. Right?
I'm beginning to think that he's not an idiot, Trey. I think that there is a certain ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves aspect to this man, because get lucky once, twice, three times, whatever. But like, I don't know, man. Like, guy's got something.
Just the luckiest son of a bitch ever, I think. I mean, you can't fucking plan for this shit. He had no
No,
idea
but,
they
like
had a miner strike or a rat infest. Any
No,
one of
I
those
know.
things
No,
should
no,
have
no. I
sunk
know.
him, but they didn't because of
I
sheer
know, but
good
like,
fortune.
okay, but like, let me put this to you here, because me and you have been on my side of this argument as it pertains to Tom Brady. When people are like, he's not the greatest of all time, it's just that, like, look at this year when he had, he had this and he had the defense and he had blah 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 and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, and like, you think it's a coincidence that guy was just there? I mean, yes, he was there for all that, but at a certain point, it's like, he's supposed to be there because he's that guy. You know what I'm saying? There's something about him that's making all this shit happen.
I mean, I guess it's hard to argue with, but I think it's just like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah, but he, Tom Brady is like also the hardest working, fucking brainiest goddamn quarterback that ever, you know what I mean? Like he was awesome
No,
of his
Peyton is
own
that.
accord.
Peyton is that. Peyton is that.
Either way, Tom Brady had all those same elements. Like his shit is not like
Sure.
an accident. This dude keeps falling bass backwards into piles of money that there's
It
no
is
way
Kramer.
he could
It's Kramer.
predict. It's Kramer, right? And so, despite all this, his relationship suffered. Because imagine, dude, they didn't like him to begin with, and then this keeps happening. They got to be pulling their fucking powdered hair out. You know, they're like, what the fuck is going on? How is this possible? But he was wild. He was also noted for his eccentricity. So he made enough money to be eccentric instead of just bug fuck crazy.
Of course.
But he used
Crazy,
to,
yeah.
his rich wife he had, he used to tell people that she was dead. He'd be like, no, she died. And then they would be like, and they would be like, we saw her on your porch the other day, and he would just say, no, that's her ghost. Can't get rid of her ghost. You know how ghosts be up here in New England in the 1700s. And they probably were just like, oh damn, yeah, I got ghosts too. Yeah. We are ate up with ghosts right now. So yeah, he would just and then one time he wanted to. I guess he'd gotten the impression that maybe he didn't hit for people all that much. So he wanted to test it.
Finally.
And he faked his own death, right? And had a fake funeral put together to see if anybody would show up. And everybody showed up. I assume it's like that meme, you know, that hilarious meme from that black guy. It's just like, just went to my number one hater's funeral just to make sure that motherfucker dead, right? Like, fucking.
My mom has said that so many times about her mom. Like, actually, it was my dad that said it the most, but just like, I was like, yeah, we ain't ever going to my grandma's funeral because she's a huge bitch. And my dad was always like, no, we're definitely going to go just to make sure that bitch is dead.
So they all show up just to make sure he dead, right? He's like watching in the back. He's like peeking around a fern or something, you know, like a fucking idiot. And his wife is there. And when she isn't.
The ghost?
Yeah, well, I guess this is when she's still alive. Like he needs her to be alive for these purposes. His wife is there. And when she isn't crying, right? And now it's unclear to me whether she knew he wasn't really dead or not. But either way, when his wife isn't crying, he jumps out in front of everybody. He's like, hey, I ain't really dead, but I gotta whip this bitch's ass for not crying enough. And again, past is a nightmare. I apologize, audience, but he caned her in front of everybody for not mourning his fake death sufficiently in front of the neighbors. Yes. So he called off the whole ruse just to cane his wife for not crying.
Did they start liking him a little bit more?
Probably.
So this guy fucking, he knows what he's talking about.
Then in his later years, at the age of 50, he decides to get into his true passion, literature, and he writes a book called A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, right? In which he mostly just complained about politicians and his old lady, right?
What's the pickle got to do with anything?
I don't fucking know. Who knows? But the book contains 8,847 words, but zero punctuation, and everything is spelled wrong, right? And not capitalized right. So
no editor. He has all this money and he doesn't get an editor.
Yeah, and so like there's a sentence in here that I could read, but without saying it, it might be hard to get it across. But he's like, everything is spelled wrong. He's like, I'm the first Lord in the United, and he spelled you like YOU United, the United States of A Mercury, now of Newburyport. All these words are misspelled. It is the voice of the people, and I can't help it, so let it go. Corey, This dude was Donald Trump before Donald Trump.
I swear to God. I swear to God.
He was
I
the
swear
nation's
to
first Donald Trump,
fucking-
dude. That
I swear
right
to
there.
fucking God.
He's
This
like, I'm
whole
the first
time-
Lord. I hit the hardest everybody. I can't help it. It's not even up to me. So all y'all haters, just fucking get over it, right? That's literally what he was saying.
The only difference is that this guy didn't come from money also, but
Right.
every other thing about him this whole time, I was like, God damn it, man. This sounds like a motherfucker I know.
So he printed this book. It got spread around and everything because people were like, "Can you believe this shit? Have you seen this shit? This is wild, right?"
Like retweeting.
And they were like, he ain't got a single thing of punctuation in here. He heard this, so he republished the thing with an extra page of just commas and periods and exclamation points at the end of it, with a line at the bottom instructing them, quote, that they may pepper and salt it as they please. And all those words are spelled wrong. So
I love this motherfucker.
I know, man.
Which is, again, another thing we've said about Trump. That's like, if he never deigned to be the leader of the free world and just stayed doing the shit that he did, I'd be like, you go, boy. Keep fucking laying it down.
So he died 9 years later in 1806 at the age of 59.
How old was he? Yeah.
59, ripe old age back then, right?
That's really old.
And his obituary in the paper said, quote, his intellectual endowments not being of the most exalted stamp. So that was the early 1800s version. Like, this motherfucker was dumb as fuck, right? That's the best they could do in the paper at the time. Because he built all those statues out of wood, they all got burnt, so all the statues were lost. His house became a hotel eventually, like a little bed and breakfast, and he died with an estate valued in today's dollars at $711,182. But so he wasn't like a multi-millionaire. Yeah, he had 35,000 of old timey dollars back then, but he had all that land and the house and stuff, and the scorn of all his peers because of his fucking bullshit. So I just thought, I don't know. I also love that dude. What a wild motherfucker and a wild story, and just really like one of the first great Americans, really, in a lot of ways. If you think about it, like fucking ain't that America? This guy laid the framework for a lot of Americans to come.
I'm sure that somebody out there listening to this podcast has already got this idea, but buddy, we should pitch this as a movie. This is fucking amazing. Like, that would be like that, that same story with all the mechanics of it's very Forrest Gumpy in a way, where it's like they keep telling him to do this and then it just kind of works out for him. So you could do that in any decade and that story framework works, but putting that realistically in the 1700s and having that's amazing. Do Forrest Gump. It's Forrest Gump, but in the pre-revolution America. That's the fucking pitch. And then also, by the way, this really happened.
But instead of being ultra sweet like Forrest Gump, he's more like Donald Trump and
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's the hottest shit. He's
it's Kenny
like
Powers.
a Will Ferrell or a Kenny Powers type character. Or it's like the overly confident idiot, which is a great character archetype.
It's
anyway.
The best character.
Yeah, right.
It's insane to me actually that this hasn't it's insane to me that Colin Firth was a rat lawyer in a movie, but this person hasn't been in a movie.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
Well, hell, let's mark that. We'll go. Maybe we'll get some people on board.
Some people tomorrow. Let's holler.
Yeah. Well, but that's it for Timothy Dexter. So it's time to get into History with Professor Cho on the subject of Pythagoras right after this.
Dun, dun, dun. This is a public service announcement. Manscaped now has beard products, baby, and a brand new nose and ear hair trimmer. If you haven't already heard, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming are traveling north of your South Pole with their revolutionary Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Plus, they've now launched the brand new Weed Whacker 2.0, which confirms they have all of the best tools for your hygiene toolbox. Time for you to upgrade your toolbox by going to manscaped.com and using our code POA for 20% off plus free shipping. Y'all that have seen my face before know that I benefit greatly from facial hair, especially if you've seen me without a beard. I'm the type of person that has a very cherub type head, and I need to fake a jawline by having a decently trimmed beard. And Manscaped really helps me do that. You don't need this beard hedger. You don't need all the attachments and stuff. There's just a dial that you just click, and it does your thing. You're like, I want 4.5 on this. I want a 3.5 here. Click, click, click. You ain't got to remove stuff. It's awesome. Also, I hate to say it, but the nose and ear hair trimmer has become a lot more of a frequent use for me over the past couple years because it apparently left my head, went straight to my nose, and I do thank the Weed Whacker and all these fine products for helping me look my absolute best. Trey, tell them more about it.
I surely will. All right, y'all. It's time to meet the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It's the ultimate package that makes it easier than ever to craft your signature look. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is an elite beard trimmer. The Beard Hedger is tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to single-stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. This waterproof, cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 haircutting links, all with one guard, so no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. The Pro Kit also comes with 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care, including Manscaped's beard shampoo and conditioner, beard oil, and beard balm to moisturize, style, and shimmer your new beard. Plus, the kit has 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors. With a nice beard, your face is perfectly groomed, right? No, you need to keep an eye out for those tough to trim ear and nose hairs. Like Cho said, when you start to age like we have, they start sprouting up all over the place. And for that, you need the brand new Weed Whacker 2.0 with improved blades and skin safe technology with a no tugging guarantee. I can back that up, by the way. No tugging whatsoever. You stick it in there, takes them out. It's never been so painless to mind your manholes. Now that you got your face looking great, you must try Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 for the full body grooming experience. Good news, the Performance Package 4.0 now comes with the Weed Whacker 2.0 and all of the other below-the-waist grooming products that Manscaped is famous for. Your significant other will be delighted to see you covering all the bases, if you know what I mean. So, get 20% off and free shipping with our code POA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use our code POA. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Get your face's beard and your wiener's beard under control.
Skew. All right, dearest airheads, it's time once again for History Professor Cho. This time on one of the mathinest, triangulingest some bitches there ever was, Pythagoras himself. What do I know about him? I pretty much just said it. He was a math feller who figured out triangles. Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, I think.
Yes.
To find the hypotenuse, good word, hypotenuse of a triangle. And that's it. That's all I know. And he was like, was he Greek? Ancient? He's ancient times math feller.
Yeah, he's an ancient times Greek feller. And I'm gonna get in. I'll read the actual Pythagorean theorem, but I would just like to say this real quick. I've never been in this position on this show. You've made me laugh a lot on this show, and you've done a lot of great segments on this show, but I've never been in a position like I'm in now where I know good and fucking well that there is no fucking way that I can compare to the segment that you just did. That was remarkable. And I think that anyone out there listening probably agrees with me, but like a hat tip and a bow to you, sir, for legit. I don't know if people think that me laughing as hard as I did was like theatrics for the show. I literally this is the hardest I've laughed in an episode. That fucking got me really good. That was phenomenal. So kudos to Trey Crowder.
Shout out to Timothy Dexter, baby. What can you say? But
no shit.
Pythagoras. Tell me about him.
So the Pythagorean The Pythagorean theorem, or Pythagoras' theorem, is a fundamental relation in Euclidean or Euclidean geometry between the three
Yeah.
sides of a right triangle. It states that the area of a square whose side is the hypotenuse, that side opposite of the right angle, is equal to the sum of the areas of the squares on the other two sides. This theorem can be written as an equation relating the lengths of the sides AB and the hypotenuse C. And that is the Pythagorean equation, right? So that's the math part of this motherfucker, but that is not what I want to talk about, really. One thing before I dive into the real crazy shit about him, he is the first person to ever suggest that the Earth was round. He was the first guy that ever did that shit. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, historically, I mean, there might have been like at least documented he's the first guy. You know, there might have been some motherfucker that was like, I don't know, I think it's round, but they didn't get their shit written about. You know what I mean? But like in a world of all these dudes who were just like, it's flat, it's flat, it's flat. He's the first person to suggest that it was round, and I didn't find anything. But I'm just wondering, like, what do you think made him say that? Like, what?
An eclipse or something? It would have to be something like that,
maybe.
Wouldn't it? Like some kind of eclipse.
Yeah, I guess when he saw the shadows or whatever.
Yeah,
because like
that's the only thing I can think
of. The
of.
world being like when hear flat earthers or whatever. Like when I think about the people who were flat earthers back before like telescopes and like satellites, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like that's why wouldn't you think that?
I mean, there's also though,
except for the whole running off the world.
And the moon, I mean, I guess they could think the moon is a disc, but like, you know, they could all see that the moon was round. It seems like again, I know they can't tell that it's a sphere from all the way down here. So like, granted that, but still like, it would give you some indication, I would think. It'd be weird to think that it was that and we wasn't that, but
that's actually my biggest argument too. Cause I have some like, I don't want to say friends. I barely want to say buddies. I'll say people that I know are flat earthers. And that's the thing that confuses me the most, is that they don't think that Uranus and Mars and the moon and all these things are flat. They only think it's the Earth. You know what I mean? Like they see all of those and I'm like, I got nothing for you. But like, anyways, he was the first one to do that. But here's we start getting the interesting shit about that. He was a big math guy. Like this motherfucker loved numbers more than anybody at his time loved numbers. That was his shit. And he had a group of followers that some people referred to as like, oh, those are his students. You know, he's a math guy. Those are his students. But a lot of people go, no. That was his cult. He had a religion. He literally worshiped numbers. Like this wasn't just someone who was like, I love numbers because they're always the same. He was someone who literally thought that numbers controlled the universe on like a God-like level. He thought that numbers were the elements that controlled all of existence, and he taught his followers that the world was controlled by mathematical harmonies that made up every part of reality. And he also thought that numbers were sacred. And here's his numbers that he believed were the most sacred. So 7 was the number of wisdom, which I feel like biblically 7, you know, that's the lucky number. That was always the number of
7's
heaven
always
for some
been
reason.
Yeah.
That 7's always been good. 8 was the number of justice. And when I was first reading this, I was like, oh, that's why. But there's 12 people on the jury, right? Not 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
so
back then,
8's the number of justice.
Yeah, but back then, I don't even know if they had, they had like maybe tribunals or something, but they didn't have like a 12-man jury of your peers like we have today. I'm pretty sure. I don't think that they had that yet.
10. So 10 is the most sacred number of all, and so that was like 10 was like they literally worshipped 10, like they would bow down and pray to the number 10. And also, anytime anyone solved a new mathematical theorem, they would thank the gods by sacrificing an ox. So like he would have his chalkboard up there and he would put a problem. And then if someone went up there and figured it out, they would cut the throat of an ox.
Yeah.
So
you're pretty fired up. They were into, but like which god? Because they had a bunch of gods, right? Did they have like a god of math or whatever? Because remember we talked about the
For these
Bacchanalia
people?
or whatever, and they
Yes.
sacrificed goats specifically to Dionysus, the god of like wine and hitting, right? So
Yeah.
these people had their own god. You're saying he had his own like thing going on, and they were like, "No,
From what-
this
yes.
the number god that we're sacrificing this
So-
ox to."
So from what I can tell, Pythagoras was seen as a god, right?
Oh,
And
shit.
so there's
So did he
no
eat the
other.
ox? Did he drink its blood? Or were they just like,
Well-
hey, see that? That's for you. That hits for you, right? Ox over there
Well-
just screaming and dying. He's like, that does hit for me. Our Lord has been pleased.
We're actually going to get into his complicated relationship with animals here in a bit, but
All right.
seriously, but no, it's like numbers. I can't explain it any other. Like maybe he's not God, but he's definitely the messenger. He's the prophet. He's like the Jesus figure. Whereas numbers, like literal numbers, are the gods. So there's no there's no. It's not a
Being.
person. Yeah, it's
like
numbers are the
forces.
omniscient. Yeah, numbers are the omniscient being because they had like a set prayer that they used to worship the number 10, which was, and I quote, "Bless us, divine number, thou who generated gods and men. For the divine number begins with the profound, pure unity until it comes to the holy four. Then it begets the mother of all, the all compromising, all bounding, the firstborn, the never swerving, the never tiring, holy 10, the key holder of it all." And everyone had to do this. Like all of his followers, if you wanted to join Pythagoras, you had to swear an oath to the Holy Triangle, which you mentioned earlier. He was a big triangle guy. So you had to swear an oath to the Holy Triangle. They would swear their loyalty by that pure, holy, four-lettered name on high, meaning, by the way, the Tactarus triangle. It was a triangle with 10 points across 4 rows. You've seen it. You know, it's like a triangle with a bunch of other little triangles inside of it and shit.
Okay.
Then they would have to swear by Pythagoras himself, who, like a mathematical deity, to our mortal race did bring the Terracterus. So like literally, they have a religion based on triangles.
I mean, the thing is, like, the way you put it earlier, I don't remember exactly you said it, but he was like, he believed that there were mathematical harmonies that governed all of existence or something like that. And it's like, I mean, he was right about that.
That is true.
Like,
that is
that's
true.
like, that's just true. Like, at the end of the day, and I'm too math dumb to know it all, obviously, but everything is math ultimately. Like, everything can be expressed in mathematical terms, and math and physics and the way the whole universe works does pretty much come down to numbers. So, I mean, you know, he wasn't that far off. I don't know about all the ox blood and everything.
I was gonna say, like, it's the worshiping of it part for me. Because, like, yes, like most dudes, like my buddy Brad is a math teacher, and most people I know that really love math, their main draw to math is that they're like, look, man, math is awesome because in 500 years, if I came back, this would still be math.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Math is math.
Like, math is math, and it never changes. It's not like, and it's also not like history where you have to learn a bunch of facts. Like, if you just understand formulas, someone can throw any math at you and you can fucking do that math. But to like make a cult out of math is something that I can't understand. But he went even further to it. Like, this is getting like real cultish. Like, so whenever you pledged your allegiance to Pythagoras and the triangle and the number 10, he would make you, if you really want to be in his group, he would make you take a vow of silence for 5 years. Right? You've got to be quiet. You can't say a goddamn word for 5 years. Now, Pythagoras was obviously saying, like, this is so that I know that you are pure and that you have, I want you to prove your loyalty to me, right? So if you can be silent for 5 years, then you're in the fucking math club or whatever.
So,
but a lot of historians.
No women then, obviously. But that was a given back then.
No.
He's like,
You're
we don't even
killing it today.
We don't even need rules for that. Everybody just knows we're not going to do that.
That was how
But
they had to do it. They were,
yeah.
that's how you got around the wokeness. So you can't just
Mhm.
say no women. But if we do say shut
Vow
the
of
fuck up
silence
for 5
for 5
years,
years.
yeah, we can.
It'll be
Oh my God.
self-policing. Yeah, they'll remove
So
themselves from
like,
the equation. No pun intended.
so like he goes on this whole thing of like that's just how I know you're loyal. That's just how I know that you're pure, that, yada, yada. But a lot of historians point out they're like, realistically, probably what it was that he was trying to do by keeping everybody silent for 5 years is that he didn't want people running around and blabbing about this fucking cult that he's starting. And they didn't want anybody saying all this shit because this is at a time, it's never been popular to claim that you're the son of God or you are a god. But
Yeah.
during this time, I mean, this is like Jesus times. You know what I mean? Like you
Nah,
couldn't
this is
just
before
be doing
Jesus
that
times,
shit.
right? This is
Well, it's
ancient Greece, isn't it? This is like
it's
Zeus
before Jesus.
times.
Okay, it is, but like I still can't. It's God. It is before Jesus times, but you understand what I'm saying when I say Jesus times. Like,
Yeah, you couldn't.
like.
Right,
You
like
can't just profess to be a
a
religion.
god.
Like they had their own
Right.
God. Yeah. Like nowadays, like don't get me wrong, in the South, you can't be running around saying I'm God. But like we do live in a more progressive society where like if someone runs around professing to be God, we just call them crazy. We just go, look at that crazy motherfucker. Back then, though, they would crucify you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like we don't do that now. Like we might like run you out of Hollywood or something, but we're not gonna fucking like stone you to death. But they would. So that's what everybody thinks, is that he was just being like, look, man, y'all don't just stay silent for 5 fucking years. One of his most famous followers was Hippasus. And it said that I fucking love this so much. So Hippasus, have you ever heard of Hippasus?
I have not. That's a good Greek name, though. Hippasus.
It's a great name. It's amazing. So it said that Hippasus was the first person to discover irrational numbers that are just like, just like they're
That's
fucking
wild.
irrational.
Yeah.
So Hippasus points this out to Pythagoras. They're out on a boat, and Hippasus was just like, hey, this number that I have found, it's not rational. It's irrational, right? And fucking Pythagoras is like, no, that's bullshit. I have taught everyone that all numbers could be expressed as ratios and integers. And homie was just like, well, no, not this one though, because the square root of 2 is a never-ending number. It's irrational. Do you understand? And so Pythagoras held his head underwater until he was dead.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
fucking
Wasn't having that shit. Well, you can't question the number god with some fucking bullshit numbers that ain't making no sense. What do you think's gonna happen?
dude, just imagine.
But that dude was also right? Like irrational numbers.
Yeah, he
that's
was
like
right. He was right.
That's like a precept in math or whatever that, again, I'm too dumb
Yeah.
to talk about, but I know it's a real thing.
But it's just fucking hilarious to me that like that part of being a human is never going to change, where it's like someone thinks a thing, they've believed it their whole life as fact. Someone comes in with literal evidence that the thing that they have always believed is not fact. And instead of that person being like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you brought this new evidence into my life. That's amazing. I was wrong. They fucking drowned them on a boat over
Yeah.
numbers, dude. Over fucking numbers. This guy was like, that
And-
ain't how I've been teaching it. And I'm going to need you to shut the fuck up.
And everybody was probably just fine with that if anybody even knew. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, you could,
Of course. They were like,
you
yeah.
could drown
Because
a
he was a
peon in a
god.
bucket back then, and everybody was just like, well, he ought not talked all that shit. You'll have that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was like, to all those people that probably saw him doing it, they were like, yeah, he disrespected God, which is numbers. Like, you can't question. These are the numbers, right? This what we got. And you can't fucking like, it's amazing. He was also, he was a vegetarian. And I respect this, by the way. He was a vegetarian except when he didn't want to be. He was
I've
a
been
stereo.
that in my
like,
life.
Me too. He was one of those. He was like a stereotypical vegetarian in that he would like run around telling everybody like, oh, eating a living thing, it pollutes your body, it pollutes your soul, it's not right. Except for sometimes he would eat animals if he was like really hungry, or if he was just like, well, I mean, lamb hits, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to tell
Yeah.
you, but like lamb is really good. And so
Well, it's
the
also funny that
example
he's
that I
like, apparently,
traced
he's like, oh, you can't go around eating living things. They're alive. They have a soul that's inhuman to just take something's life so
Yeah.
you can eat it. And then one of his followers is like, I don't think that's true. And he just stabs them to death. Fucking kicks their body off a cliff or whatever. It's like, shut your fucking mouth. Anyway, back to the morality of killing animals for sustenance. Yeah.
Well, so the
He was
reason
wild.
that the reason that I even found out about him being a vegetarian is because I saw this quote attributed to him where someone came up on him and he was eating a dog. So he's eating this dog, which was big back then, I assume.
Yeah.
He was eating dog meat, and someone called him a hypocrite because they were like, "No, you've said."
He's like, no, hypocrite's over there. Hypocrite's two doors down. He's down that way. I'm Pythagoras. You're looking for the hypocrites.
You're on fire today, son. You're on fucking fire today. I'm not saying you ain't normally not funny, but you're on fucking fire today. So someone saw him eating a dog and they called him a hypocrite because they were just like, no, listen, you have told us 1,000,000 times that eating a living thing is bad for your soul. And he said, it wasn't a living thing because I killed it first.
Right. No, this dog dead. You think this is a live dog I'm eating? Let's have your eyes checked, motherfucker.
So he's got this whole thing about like eating an animal removes part of your soul. He's got this really big thing of like certain things remove part of your soul because he also thought that coming made a man lose part of his soul. So like he instructed all his followers. He's like, y'all can't come. Like, I know you love coming, you know, like that's a, you know, pretty, even back then, coming was like,
oh, buddy,
that was what's
especially
up.
back then.
Yeah.
They love
back then, coming's all you got.
Bro, yeah, fucking.
There's
what
only
was
one
in it for these people. Like, what were they just that into numbers? Like, goddamn, you can't talk, you can't get it wet, you can't fucking do nothing. Like, what's the point?
The only thing that makes sense to me is that is how definitive numbers are. Is that you can use them to convince people. Like they're so fucking on the point that if you get someone. If you explain math to them so well, they're just like, well, that has to be, I don't know, but I don't know where not coming falls into it. But he's got him in his zone and he's just like, look, you can't come because every time you come, you lose a part of your soul. Right. And you can't have that. So he instructed me, he's like, y'all have to abstain from sex. But his caveat was, all right. And I assume because a lot of people were like, look, man, this is Greece. We're going to fuck, you know? So he told him, he was like, if you have to come, you should only come in the winter. Right. And I tried to, I looked around. I don't know why it was that he thought that like maybe if you come in the winter, it freezes your cum and therefore your soul stays a little bit. I don't know, but like.
Yeah.
This draws us to the last thing that I want to talk about. Like I said, this man thought a lot of things affected your soul, but without question, the funniest thing that he thought affected your soul was that he thought he made all of his followers stay away from fava beans. You know fava beans from Hannibal Lecter, fava beans.
Yes.
Silence of the Lambs, fava beans. He made everybody stay away from fava beans because, Trey, what is it that fava beans make you do?
Lose your soul, all of it, all at once. Fart. You fart out your soul. You fart out your soul.
It makes you fart. It makes you fart. And he thought that every time you farted, the gas, the warm gas that came out was your spirit. He farted and he thought, that's my spirit leaving my stinky fucking spirit.
Did he then like turn around and try to like sniff it up? It's like, oh shit, oh no, I can't let that go. And he's like huffing it and shit. Like, get back in there, spirit. God damn it. Yeah. Also, the coming in the winter thing, maybe he thought that like, if you come in the winter, your spirit goes to leave. It's like, I'm out of here. He's coming. I don't stand for that. And then your spirit gets outside and it's like, whoa, no, fuck that. I'm going to just stay in. And he's like, yeah, tricked you, spirit.
I mean, I don't have any
What
other
else? Yeah, right.
I don't I don't know what else it would be, but he said that this is what he said about fava beans. He said, and I quote, eating fava beans and gnawing on the heads of one's parents is one and the same. So, which is, by the way, it goes back to his vegetarian roots of those people who were just like, eating a chicken is the same as eating your children. You know what I mean?
Right. But it's beans, though. Also, like, nothing else made him fart. Like, if farting's the problem, how do you zero in on fava beans specifically?
I guess that, like, even then, and it's funny because, like, you think about, like, one of the most famous comedy scenes of all time is, Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, the farting scene, because they're all, like, eating beans. And, like, it's just insane to me to think that, like, that goes back to pre-Jesus. Like, everyone knew, like, it's these
but we're
beans
humans.
that make you
They're
fart.
beans. You know what I mean? Like, if beans make you fart, they would have made ancient humans fart too, And maybe, like, fava beans was the only beans that were prominent in Greece. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why they were singled out.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, yeah, that's probably true. But here it goes even further, Trey. Would it surprise you for me to tell you that he thinks fava beans are sacred, right? That's another thing. You don't eat fava beans. They're sacred. Like, this is why they're sacred, is if you eat them, you fart out your spirit, right? You fart out your spirit. So would it surprise you for me to tell you that him thinking that fava beans were sacred is what killed him? And could you try to guess the scenario in which that played out? I want to put you on the spot. How did thinking fava beans was spiritual?
He got in trouble for saying he was a god and they wouldn't let him eat anything but fava beans and he refused and he starved to death, or he just, like, saw somebody trying to eat some fava beans and he tried to stab him. He tried to drown the wrong dude in a bucket. I don't have a fucking clue.
All right. So here's what happened. There were some dudes that were, like, coming after him for, I assume, the reason. I didn't say, I read 2 stories on this and it didn't say the reason they were coming after him, but I have to assume it was because he had a cult. I have to assume it was because he was purporting. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was purporting to be a god. So these people were, like, coming after him. So they come to his house and they light his house on fire in order to draw him out, which works, but he gets away from him. Like, he runs out and he's on his way to fucking getting away from him. But this dude chases him into a field of fava beans, and Pythagoras refuses to run into the field of fava beans because he doesn't want to damage them. So he stands there and lets this dude slit his throat and kill him because, I mean,
what else was he supposed to do? Yeah.
What
he
else
really
was he
had no
supposed to
choice
do?
at that point. Yeah.
He
Can't
didn't.
just fuck the fava beans up.
So that's all I want to tell you about Pythagoras. He thought farting.
I did not know. It's just, again, we've talked a lot about the past in this episode, and, like,
I love it.
How wild it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were saying earlier, like, these are the smart people. Like, dude,
Pythagoras was the smartest person.
I know, like, the smartest people ever were also just fucking boogity lunatics, man. Because like, the past just be that way. I mean, I guess a lot of the smartest people alive today are pretty crazy too. Seems to kind of come with the territory.
Crazy, but like, I don't know,
like
man.
That.
When I think about the smartest people, I think of, like, whoever the head of NASA is, and like, it would.
They probably have their eccentricities. They got OCD or something. They wash their hands a whole bunch, but they're not like thinking you fart your soul out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it would not only surprise
It's crazy
me,
in a dumb way.
Yes,
like,
it would not only surprise me to find out that the head of NASA thought that you farted away your spirit, but it would make me go, I don't think he should be the head of NASA.
Correct. Yes. It's not just it's crazy. It's that it's crazy in a seemingly stupid way, which adds another element to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Steve Jobs was a little bit this way.
Yeah.
Steve
Yes,
Jobs
he was.
because like Steve Jobs would like what was it he would do? Like he would
Well, he
fucking
pretty
like
much let himself die of cancer because he refused to
cancer.
get actual treatment until it was too late. He tried to just eat a bunch of mangoes or something instead.
Yeah, he
and
didn't
that
wear
didn't work.
deodorant. He used to
Yeah.
put like onions in his socks and shit and just like rub onions on himself and stuff. So Steve Jobs was a little bit this way. Matter of fact, I want to read more into that. But like it's rare is all I'm saying. It's fucking rare cuz like when you think like no one would have guessed when you said like tell me some stuff about Pythagoras that's like he
No.
died because of beans.
No, I didn't know. I knew he was the triangle man and super smart at numbers. I didn't know none of the rest of that shit, buddy. That is wild. So,
It is
so you
wild.
got any?
You fucking buried me this week. You buried me this
Well,
week. Trey.
I've had a great time.
And
We're
yes,
gonna
I
do
do
a
have
couple
some
quick.
emails.
Let's do a couple quick
Yes.
air mails and get out of here because I got to
Yes.
get ready for weekly skews here in about an
Oh,
hour.
you do? What are y'all talking about on skews this week, Trey?
Well, I don't know yet because I haven't opened up Mark's doc, so that's what I'm saying. I got.
Have you ever promoted skews on this podcast?
Well, it's very, very different. I'm assuming a lot of people listening at least are aware of its existence, but I do a political podcast with Smart Mark Agee, and we do it live every Tuesday night at 5 Pacific on my pages, but you can also get it wherever you get your podcast, called Weekly Skews. And I never know anything about any of that shit until Mark makes an outline. I cram for about an hour
Yep.
before we start, and then I talk as though I've always known these things because
Yeah.
I'm pretentious, full of shit.
And that's where I get
charlatan, yeah.
That's where I get all of my news, and I co-host skews every now and then, and I have the same method. Mark will send me a rundown of the thing, and I will click on it 2 minutes before the show, and it's always fun. It's always fun. But we got some airmail here. Subject line: tomato aspics and Southern foods. This is from, I assume. Well, you know what? I don't want to say anybody's name until I get to the end. Hi boys, longtime fan of the show and the extended Skewniverse. I was listening to your episode about wedding and Zsa Zsa Gabor, particularly the section about gelatin foodstuffs, and wanted to pass along this book recommendation. The book is called Being Dead is No Excuse, The Southern Lady's Guide to Hosting the Perfect Funeral. This book was literally the first time I had ever heard of the tomato aspic. As Macon country hillbilly and not a Delta debutante, but I found a lot of the descriptions of Delta funeral customs to be hauntingly familiar. I always get a good giggle out of this book, and I think you will too. Also, my ulterior motive for sending this along is because I would love a special episode, parentheses, Patreon perhaps. We don't do a Patreon, but hey, maybe in the future, where Trey and Corey make tomato aspic and then try it and then hopefully knock it. I do like that. See You, Love You, Bye, Claire Dees, your long lost Gothabilly cousin. I like that, Trey. I think we should do a little, maybe not a bonus episode, but maybe we could film ourselves doing it and then like insert it into the show. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. Somebody at one of my shows, I'm so sorry, I forgot already. But somebody at one of my shows gave me a book. I think it was one of my patrons, but I don't want to get them wrong. I got a few like super patrons and I remember them, but I don't want to get the wrong one. Anyway, she gave me a book that I've been meaning to bring out here for one of these episodes that sounds similar to that one. It's not about funerals, but it's about like crazy recipes from the past or something. I've been meaning to look through it and see what we got in there. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
By the way, that's patreon.com/Trey Crowder. And for my bonus stuff, you can go to parttimefunnyman.com. Subject line: ambergris is fossilized whale cum? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Fellers, y'all talking about the anointing oil for, and I'm saying it how he says it, for Charles' coronation reminded me that ambergris exists. For years, I thought it was fossilized whale cum that washed ashore and was a rare, highly sought-after ingredient for making perfume, therefore making it expensive as fuck. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. This Britannica article says that whale scientists now believe it is a substance formed in the whale intestines to help break down giant squid beaks. Who knew? Link below. I'll send it to you, Trey. Thought I would clarify what that shit is. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I've heard of ambergris before, and it never occurred to me to even what it might be. I definitely did not think it was fossilized whale cum, but yeah, it's still whale related, so that's a fun fact. Thank you to this
That-
person.
Thought I would clarify what that shit is. Thanks for all you do. Love the podcast. You can use my name if you want. I will. It's Rogue Squad 2112. So, fellow Star Wars fan there. Skew Corby. P.S. My last email regarded how much I dislike pimento cheese, and it's my one failing as a Southern dude. But Corey, your video of making your style of pimento cheese looked really good, and I'd give it a try. Yeah, you're goddamn right, buddy. If you make my pimento cheese, that shit is absolutely fire. Trey, you didn't know this, but I the last time I got drunk, I filmed myself making pimento cheese.
That hits.
So, of course, I usually pick these at random, but every now and then you can tell why I picked one. And, well, the subject line says it all. In defense of Corey.
Yeah, that was always getting on.
If
If y'all want to get on the show, just make the subject line something like that. Just something like, here's why Corey hits. Like, he will read it.
I haven't read this yet. I just saw In Defense of Corey, and I was like, we're fucking reading this on the show. So it could be insane. I'd say it will be if someone's defending me. Hey, boys, love the pod, but I am super behind. I'm glad you guys make me laugh, and my northern ass and my southern husband, and my southern husband both love listening, and it always sparks conversation. Trey, I recently saw your show in Atlanta, and a producer friend of mine was saying she would love to do a project with you. If you want her info, let me know. He don't. But that's not what
it depends. If she hits, that's fine. You can send another email to this email address.
Just send the email and if she hits or not.
Yeah. She hits, here's her email. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. If not, then no. I listened to the Pirates and Blue Eyes episode today. Oh, you're not that far behind. In that, Corey said he would have dodged the draft in World War II. The thing is, even though Captain America says differently, at the time in the 40s, Americans didn't know about the Holocaust. America didn't go into war until after Pearl Harbor, the day that lives in infamy, December 7th, 1941. It wasn't until almost a year later, according to the D.C. Holocaust Museum, November 1942 was when they found out about the Jew killing, parentheses, the Holocaust, and I know others got killed also, which does not hit, obviously. And hey, I'm glad that you said that, because on this show, we've stood firm in that the Holocaust, 9/11,
also,
what else?
Hitler don't hit, but like Hitler and the Holocaust, kind of, none of that hits.
They don't hit.
Genocide don't hit.
Genocide don't hit. That's right. That was a history, but in defense of Corey, dodging the draft is American as fuck. Look at Muhammad Ali. Nope, damn right, baby. Look at Muhammad Ali. Enough said on that. But on top of that, a lot of the early draft dodgers had no idea what was going on. They just didn't want to go to war. The boys going into World War II probably didn't know what they fought for. And it was maybe the last justified war the U.S. got involved in, the same way the OG boys going in Nam didn't understand it was dumb. My point is, history is 2020, and Corey, I don't blame you seeing it from the eyes of the people being asked to go into the unknown. Yeah, I was definitely looking at it from everybody else's perspective, aside from my own. I'll leave with a FDR quote. I hate war. And Cho, if I was eligible, I'm not, because of my vaginal, I would dodge the draft also, because I can do the right side of history here. There you go. Fuck you, Trey. You goddamn Steve Rogers motherfucker.
It's all true about them not knowing about the Holocaust. It is important context. You're right. They didn't truly understand the extent of the justification for the war before they went. But we had been attacked by another country before we got into it. And, now, of course, that happened in 9/11, and that ended up being a real quagmire that did not hit at all. Ultimately ended up in Iraq.
Well, we went to the wrong country.
But, yeah, right, exactly. But, still, I'm saying. So I hear you. But, they
attacked Hawaii. They attacked Hawaii. It wasn't like Ohio. I didn't see it. Hawaii does hit, but I'm just saying I could understand myself being like, well, that's over there. They didn't know what they were bombing.
Right. Well, no, but yeah. Anyway, all right. That's enough. I gotta go. I gotta
right.
read. Reading
All
on
right. I love you, Trey. Thank y'all for listening to Putting on Air. Stay fancy, motherfuckers. Trey killed it. I can never recover from how much I got showed up on this episode. All right. Love y'all. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trey and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.